So as I'm looking at this Hebrew Matthew, I'm like, hey, that was interesting for Michael in Matthew 23 and Matthew 15. There might be some other interesting things in this Hebrew Matthew. So I start reading it from the beginning, and look what I found. Look what I find. It's really cool. And this ties into what we started out with, talking about the name. So here's an image from Matthew chapter 1, verses 18 to 25. And and if you could read medieval Hebrew, you can read this. It's an unusual script if you're not familiar with it. But right over here, you have this symbol, which is the symbol He, and it appears twice. And this He, over here and over here, what this represents is the name Hashem. Now, remember, this was copied by a rabbi, meaning if you believe what we're told in ancient sources, it was written by Matthew. In Hebrew, we're told that by Papias, a church father who died in the year 130, who tells us that Matthew collected the words in the Hebrew language and each translated them as he was able. So what happened is Matthew wrote this in Hebrew. At some point, it's brought over into the synagogue. And you think, how did this get into synagogues? Well, what happened is the Catholic Church came along and started persecuting Jews who believed in Yeshua. So where are they going to hide? So they hide among the other Jews, and they bring their manuscripts with them. Over the centuries, they assimilate, and this now is being copied by a Jewish rabbi. When a Jewish rabbi sees God's name, Yud-He-Vav-He, outside of the Old Testament, it's very rare for him to ever write Yud-He-Vav-He. It happens occasionally, but it's very rare. Normally, instead of writing Yud-He-Vav-He, he uses a symbol to represent the name, and that symbol is usually a He with a line over it, which is exactly what we see here. So coming back to the name, I'm looking years ago in the New Testament in Hebrew, and I see the name of the Father, Yud-He-Vav-He. Well, in the Greek, it doesn't appear. In the Greek, you have Kurios, which is Lord, and you have Theos, which is God, but you never have the actual name Yud-He-Vav-He, and I'm not even here talking about the issue of the vowels, just the Tetragrammaton, the personal name of the God of Israel, revealed in Exodus 3:15, appears 6,827 times in the Tanakh. In the Old Testament, appears 0 times in the New Testament until we find this Hebrew Gospel of Matthew. And I say, wait, what's that doing there? The name was in the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, and then everything started to make sense. So there's a Dead Sea Scroll that was discovered at a place called Nachal Hever, and it's the Septuagint in Greek. It's the Old Testament in Greek. But when it comes to the name of God, it doesn't say Kurios in these earliest copies of the Septuagint. It says Yud-He-Vav-He, the Tetragrammaton in Hebrew. So you're reading this document in Greek, and all of a sudden you see a Hebrew word. Well, what happened is, as Christians started to copy the Septuagint, they didn't know how to read the Hebrew or write the Hebrew, and then it was replaced with Lord, which by that time had become a Jewish tradition. But originally, it seems that from this evidence here, and we'll get into some other exciting things that I discovered, maybe in the second half of this episode, if you'll let me. There's other really exciting things, other New Testament documents that I came across.
No, not yet, not yet. Okay. I've been waiting for 18 years because you told me when you found these other Hebrew manuscripts of these other Gospels, you said, I can't release it, and we can't say anything about it. And I said, don't tell me what they are. That way I don't know. and so that's the answer I can give to everyone. I've been waiting 18 years for this, Nehemia.
But now we can release them. It's really exciting.
And you've got them. So
it's really exciting. But anyway, Michael, I want to look at something here before we wrap up the first part here. So what made George Howard think that this was an original Hebrew document, not just a translation from Greek? So here we have Matthew chapter 1, and we can see here what it says in the Greek is chapter 1, verse 21, she'll bring forth a son, you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. And it's really interesting. I'll ask Christian groups around the world, I'll say, do you know what the name Jesus means? And a lot of them will have no idea. And some of them will say, oh, it means salvation, which isn't entirely accurate. It's true, but it's only half true. Now, if you look in the Hebrew Matthew, what it says is, you shall call his name Yeshua, for he will save my people from their iniquities. And the Hebrew word for Yeshua, or the name there is Yeshua, and the 3 words in English, he will save, translate a single word in Hebrew, this word Yoshia. So why is he called Yeshua? Because Yoshia, he will save. And that makes perfect sense in Hebrew because the name Yeshua itself is a contraction of 2 Hebrew words. And those two Hebrew words are Yehovah, the name of the Father, Yoshia, he will save. And so, you know, I mean, some people have pointed in the New Testament where it talks about he comes in his Father's name, and his Father's name is in him. And that's actually literally true, that the name Yeshua has in it the name Yehovah, Yehovah Yoshia, Yehovah will save, or Yehovah saves. And so, and it gets even more exciting. I don't think I'll have time to get to it right now. But so this name Yeshua is itself a shortened form of Yehoshua, which is the name Joshua. And there were people in the Old Testament who had this name. Joshua, the son of Nun, was the first man ever to be called Yehoshua. His name originally was Hosea, he saves. And Moses decided, you know what? Now that we've been taken out of Egypt, my servant Hosea, I'm going to change his name to be more specific about who saves. And he called him Yehoshua, Yehovah saves. And then Yehoshua, Joshua the son of Nun, in Nehemiah chapter 8:17, my favorite book, the book of Nehemiah, because I wrote it. No, in that book, he is then called Yeshua. So there's no question whatsoever, Jesus of Nazareth in his day was known as Yeshua.